Borrowing from the late Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, you said that the Bible is the most sustained critique of power in human history, which might surprise some people. And as you've already noted, power is a hot button issue in our postmodern world. In 1977, French philosopher Michel Foucault said power is everywhere. And while he wasn't offering a prophetic statement, I do think it's an apt description of our current cultural moment. We are remarkably, in America, cynical about all authority, all power, and we grant special moral privilege to those who, by virtue of unchosen identity features, are being oppressed by that power in an interlocking grid of power imbalances. And so I'm curious, on this theme of power, how is the Bible's critique of power different from the postmodern critique of power?
Well, postmodernism, Michel Foucault and many others, God is dead. They follow Nietzsche. Truth is dead. So it's just power against power. You have no alternative to power. That's the problem.
So the only way to beat power is more power.
Let me mention another rabbi, Rabbi Heschel. He points out one of the mysteries of human history is why humans don't cry out more against the terrible abuse of power over humans. And he says his answer is the impressiveness of the spectacle of power. When you see supreme power, military, Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, whoever it is, it's so amazing we bow down before it. But he points out the first great voices against power like that, the abuse of power, are the Hebrew prophets. So God has made humans in his image. You have a standard, human dignity above power. You have truth above power. You have God's justice above power. So the deepest source of a foundation for tackling injustice is biblical, the Old and the New Testaments, the whole truth of the Lord in which we can stand against false power.
Oh, that is a very clear and succinct way of summing up those differences. And it helps me tremendously, even as I'm trying to reflect, because again, I'm a millennial and I went to a secular liberal university where I studied these postmodern thinkers. And I do think for many young, intelligent Christians, we've been so shaped by our education that we have a difficult time articulating what the Bible's view is and what's the problem with the postmodern view, which has taken over. Another thing that you've explored as far as how the Bible addresses, and you just brought it up, problems with power, is what you've called the Genesis Declaration. So how does, maybe explain what the Genesis Declaration is and explain how that helps us to resist oppressive power?
Well, what I call the Genesis Declaration is simply Genesis 1:26 and 27, that it says God has made humans in his image and likeness. And you can say a lot of things about that, but I love the rabbis stress that means that we are like the absolutely unlike. So you go right through the Bible almost every time is against images, because that's idolatry and it's visual and so on and so on. But there's one exception, us. God is against all images, because when you have gold, silver, worship the sun or the moon or the storm or whatever, that's nature, which he created. That's not him. But we are like the unlike. And so humans are the image of God. And that in history is quite literally the highest worth of humanity. Now that means, among other things, that we are only understood upwards. We are never fully understood downwards.
Explain that.
Well, you take, say, Richard Dawkins, we are the selfish gene, or the common thing, we are the tool maker, or Desmond Morris's famous one, we're the naked ape. All of these are sociological or chemical or anthropological ways of saying we're defined downwards. We're like the animals and so on. No, we are never, ever fulfilled that way. Human beings surpass themselves because they're only understood upwards, made in the image of God. Now that's the grounds of preciousness. So we're not saying reason. Some Christians have made that mistake. If you look at, say, the image of God is love or reason or whatever, then you can quickly find a human who's not very rational or not very loving. And then maybe they don't know. The least educated, the most handicapped person, the most impoverished economically, the most degraded person you can ever find is still made in the image of God.
Mm.
And that's why we care for them as human beings. So the Genesis Declaration is the highest statement of, that's important today, because we're quite literally moving, Patrick, post-truth, you mentioned that earlier, but post-rights.
Mm.
In other words, people today, even liberals, can't find a reason why the individual person matters supremely.
Yeah,
We're moving post-rights.
it seems to me that we are moving to a point where we're beginning to, rather than see individuals, as you said, as individuals made in the image of God with supreme dignity and worth by that single fact and virtue, to a place where individuals are becoming avatars of their identity. I'm not Patrick Miller anymore. I'm just a cisgender, straight white man. And I think you see this on the left, primarily in social justice movements, though I think sometimes you see it on the right in discussions of the far right, I would say, of race and maybe immigration. But how does the Genesis Declaration challenge or support identity politics?
Well, we are whom God has made us. And at the heart of the first sin and the first temptation behind it was you should become as God. And so, and also the temptation, did God say? In other words, you can see behind that, God had an ulterior motive. He's constraining you. If you were like this, you'd be really free. So to be really free, and freedom is the appeal and the seduction, we've got to break with others, and one of them is God. We've got to break with the past. We've got to break with any categories except what I today think I am. So we break, and the ultimate folly is breaking with our bodies. And you can see the insanity of this and the sort of Gnostic impulses, mind good, body bad. I can break with anything. So I'm a man. Do I think tomorrow I can be a woman? Am I a woman? I think today I can be a man. There's an insanity and a folly in that Genesis 3 attempt to throw out all binaries, throw out all boundaries. So it's the boundless freedom of me being me that matters. That is absolute. It's a recipe for madness. And you can see America is sowing the seeds of a harvest of confusion and alienation and lostness.